in the shooting. Anyway, you're going to have a big show today, along with Mark Garagos, who has just been able to finally break free from the big proceedings today with Eric and Val Menendez, who will have to wait longer for their hearing. At any rate, take it away.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, he just got out of court, so we'll have him on in a little bit. Appreciate it, Elizabeth. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Brian Entin in for Chris Cuomo tonight. And by the way, Chris is not relaxing on a beach somewhere right now. He's actually doing quite the opposite. Chris is training to be a fireman. You heard me. That's right. Elizabeth is staring at me. Yep. Training to be a fireman, runs into burning buildings. The training, as you can imagine, is obviously very intense. It's going to take Chris away from his show every few weeks. So I'm filling in tonight. Chris will be back tomorrow night as he continues this training. But let's get to the breaking news of the day. Another school shooting, this time on the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee. Here's what we know right now. Started at 11:50 a.m. this morning. A shooter opened fire outside of the campus. It was right on the Student Union building there. 2 people were killed. They were not students, but there were 6 more injured, none of whom have been identified as of this hour. Police responded immediately, and when the shooter refused to drop his weapon, police shot and wounded him. Now, all of those injured, they've been hospitalized. There are some in critical condition tonight. We're monitoring their conditions. The police have identified the shooter as 20-year-old FSU student. His name is Phoenix Ickner. And this is where it gets very, very interesting. His mother, Jessica Ickner, happens to be a longtime local sheriff's deputy. Here's what law enforcement had to say at the press conference today.
The shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Ickner, and he's a son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our deputy Ickner, has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene.
Pretty extraordinary. The son used the mother's weapon, the deputy's weapon, to commit the shooting today. Now, before we dig deeper into what happened, how the shooter managed to get his hands on his mother's gun, I want to bring in an FSU student who was there today when the shooting happened, 21-year-old junior Ryan Settergren. Ryan, appreciate you being with us tonight. I'm so sorry for what you went through, for what's happening at FSU. My stepbrother just graduated from FSU. It's an incredible school. Just walk me through what you remember. How did you first realize that this was going on this morning?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. So I was in the Student Union bowling alley, which is on the lowest level of the Student Union there. And there's glass doors of that part of the building. And then there's a campus bar right next door. And the campus bar is open to the rest of the union. And all of a sudden, everyone from the bar just started running towards bathrooms, towards closets, like whatever they could run to. And all of us kind of looked up and realized something's not right here. And so we went and hid first in a billiards room, which has glass doors that you could see, but it also kind of put another wall between us. And then once we saw FSU police come downstairs, we went and hid behind the bowling machines to set the pins.
So you were behind the bowling pins. How long did you have to stay there?
It was very quick. It was about 10 minutes that police came, escorted us out, and then just made sure everyone was okay.
Did you hear any gunshots?
I did not, no.
Did you know anything, now that we're learning who this suspect is, have you heard anything about him? Is he someone that people knew on campus?
I've never seen the name before, no. I don't know anything about him other than, he just committed a very cowardly act towards innocent college students and towards innocent bystanders.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. And the 2 people who were killed apparently were not students, but there's a number of students who are in the hospital right now. What is it? Are you on campus right now? I mean, I can't imagine what it must feel like on campus.
A couple blocks from campus to my apartment, and I took a walk a little bit earlier, not towards the scene, but around campus, and it just is very quiet, very dead. and very just somber is kind of the way to put it. Everyone's, hugging everyone. Everyone's, complete strangers. Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?
It seemed, and I hate to think like this, that this is the world we live in, but it seemed almost organized, like the university had a good plan in place. The alerts went out. We saw a video of people locking down in the classrooms. There was a secret code word that was used when police arrived that they knew that they could open the doors. I mean, did it feel orderly in a sense?
Unfortunately, yeah. I think that's kind of the way to put it is since kindergarten, we've been doing lockdown drills and now, seeing this and seeing the response, and I know FSU police is trained for some similar situation, and we have locks on the doors that they can lock with a click, and yeah.
Again, it's unfortunate that this is the way. I mean, you mentioned that you had lockdown drills since kindergarten. I just had fire drills, but younger people like you grow up having to deal with this and knowing that this could be a possibility. Ryan, what do you make of what we've learned about the shooter, that his mother was a sheriff's deputy there in Leon County, a school resource officer? I think that shocked all of us.
Yeah, it shocked me too. Just knowing that, someone that's in the law enforcement community, and I guess somehow her son was able to have access to the weapons and I guess was able to bring them to campus. And, we don't know what his mind was at, but it's just heartbreaking. But I got to say, so much credit goes to Leon County Sheriff's Office, to Tallahassee Police, FSU Police. They were on the scene in minutes and have just done such a good job of their quick response. I'm so grateful for them. Yeah,
and they were able to stop this man before it got much worse. He had more guns. I mean, he had 3 guns with him, so it could have been a much, much worse situation. Ryan, I'm sorry again for everything you went through today. Appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Right.
Okay, now to get some perspective on how the shooter was able to get a hold of 3 weapons, one of which we know, again, belonged to his mother, who is a sheriff's deputy. Very unusual. How did he make it onto campus with these weapons? I want to bring in former FBI agent Jennifer Coffendorfer and also Chief Christopher Van Heel, who was a first responder also to the Sandy Hook shootings. Appreciate both of you being with us. Jennifer, I want to start with you. You live not far from FSU. You've got a son in college. I live in Florida. I mean, all of this hits very, very close to home for us. What do you make of the component here that the shooter's mother is a sheriff's deputy and that he used his mother's gun?
Yeah, I mean, that just jumps off the page, right? You just think that law enforcement know how to properly secure their weapons. At the end of the day, no one should be able to get to your gun but you. And obviously, she did not have that gun secured.
Do you think, Jennifer, I mean, today the chief was very clear that that she was a good deputy and that he didn't think that she would be facing any charges or, be getting in trouble at work. But, I mean, could she be to blame for this, Jennifer, criminally?
I don't believe criminally. I don't think she had any idea that her son would take that weapon and do this. But civilly is a whole different matter. She has a responsibility to secure that weapon.
Yeah, I want to show you both really quick what the sheriff said today about that. Look at this.
This was a handgun that deputy used prior to them transitioning to a new handgun, and so it was her personal handgun.
We will do a thorough investigation to look at all aspects of it. There's no cause right now that we're aware of that require her to be placed on any kind of suspension or otherwise.
Chief, in a sense, obviously I feel for that mother, apparently a very good deputy, worked in the schools. I can't imagine how she's feeling tonight, but at the same time, did she have an obligation, Chief, to have the gun locked up?
Yes, of course. Anybody that's a responsible gun owner is going to have their weapons completely locked up. It remains to be seen if her son had mental issues. I think the fact that they were able to take him alive is, amazing. Generally, when you shoot a suspect who doesn't comply, blamed for center mass. So the fact that the suspect himself was shot by police and survived, that puts it in a whole different direction, because now you're going to have a trial and you're going to have, a background. They're going to try to find some type of a motive. Not that they could explain why a person would do this, but what they're going to be looking for is a past. Did he put anything on social media? Did he have mental, being a psychiatrist or psychologist? Did the mother know? Did family members know? The fact that he did something like this, I can guarantee there's probably some type of a lead-in where he said something or had issues. That's what I think this direction is going to go.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the point that he is alive. Apparently he was shot, he's in the hospital, but he's alive, which I think you said 50% of the time that happens. It just feels rare, though. It seems like most of the time these shooters get killed or take their own lives cowardly. But Chief, are you surprised the police said that he's not talking, he's not giving them any information at this point? Or maybe that's not a surprise, considering he sort of knows, seems like he knows the law. He was in this youth law enforcement program. His mom was a deputy.
Yeah, that could very well possibly be that he knows police procedure. He obviously does. The fact that he showed up at the student union shows that he had some planning, because that's where you would go. There's always a lot of people congregating there. But you look at the fact that the two people that are deceased, unfortunately, they are not students. So it's unclear that this was targeted. It could have just been something that he was planning, but didn't know really what he was going to do in the end, and just decided, maybe this morning to access a weapon, just, do this cowardly act for one reason or another. I guarantee he knows police procedure. The fact able to invoke his rights also tells you about his mental status. The fact that he calm enough to understand what he was going through at that particular moment and knew that he shouldn't talk to police.
Jennifer, are you hearing anything about motive? We're not getting any indication that he was screaming anything. We haven't gotten anything official yet from the sheriff there or the FSU police chief, but have you gotten any indication of why he may have done this?
Well, I certainly perused all of his social media, and it's clear that he was kind of radical in his views, I would say, in his leanings. And I find it quite interesting, a little bit off topic of that, is how accurate he was. This wasn't using a rifle like we've seen that you can be accurate from 100 yards. This is a handgun. So it tells me he probably had some serious training when it came to operating a pistol.
I want to bring in Mackenzie Heater now. She is an FSU student who actually saw all of this go down, and I really appreciate her joining us tonight. I can't imagine what you've been going through there. She is Mackenzie. You were close to the shooter. Tell us what you saw, what you witnessed, Mackenzie.
Well, I was walking out of the Union with my food for lunch, and I noticed an orange Hummer parked at this little service road near the Union. And so as I'm walking, I walk right past the Hummer, right past the dude, and I'm walking. I have one of my AirPods in playing music, and what caught my attention, I think it was the gunshot. The first gunshot he made with the shotgun. I thought originally was a rifle, but it turns out it was a shotgun. So he makes that shot in our direction and misses. And that's when he turns around and goes to the Hummer, and he grabs his pistol and he shoots the lady walking in front of him. And that's when I knew that there was no target. There was no one specific. It was just anybody he could see.
So the lady, Mackenzie, who you saw him shoot was not a student, is that right? I mean, did you have any idea who she was?
No, I knew she wasn't a student just because she looked older. She was in, scrubs. I know some of our medical field students will wear those. But, yeah, she was in scrubs, and she just looked older, like a woman, and I knew that she wasn't a student.
So he went back to his Hummer to get a different gun.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really like he even really left it. The way it was parked, it was just kind of like he opened the driver door, kept the driver door open, shot with his bigger gun, and then then he turned around and basically just grabbed it straight out.
And where did you go after that?
I ran. I live right across West Tennessee Street, and thank God I was already on the edge of near like the stop sign and stuff, but I just kept running all the way to my apartment.
Jennifer, Chief, I want to open it up to you. I mean, I don't know if you have any questions for Mackenzie, who's joined us, who was actually right there. And any questions for her, Jennifer?
Yes, I'm curious as to what the other students saw. I've seen video footage of people walking by somebody wounded, sipping on their Starbucks as if nothing was going on. Was it mass panic and people running, or were people confused?
I don't know. I refuse to watch that video because I find that behavior absolutely disgusting. And that's partly why I started contacting news stations, because I wanted it to get cleared up. But I know that everybody was panicked. The dude that kind of like was next to me, he kind of looked really panicked after that first shot ran off, and with the rifle that didn't even hit anybody. And then we just started running. And the only people I really saw, because I was running away from campus, and I was already pretty much off of it, it was like people coming to class. And so I just was yelling at them, like, don't go that way. There's an active shooter.
Well, listen, we really appreciate you talking with us tonight, Mackenzie. I'm so sorry for everything you went through today. I know it's going to be tough in the days ahead, sort of getting through this. Mackenzie, thank you for joining us. Jennifer, Chief, we appreciate you both for coming on. And sadly, here we are again covering another one of these school shootings. But we appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, still to come tonight, the wife of Cuomo Abrego Garcia is speaking out about the accusations that her husband abused her. And at the same time, the Trump administration just got another blow from an appeals court in the case. What does all of this mean? First, she said she was abused. Now she's saying she wasn't. What's the latest with the case? We're going to look at the political and the legal. All of that's coming up next.
Of Cuomo Abrego Garcia. Nobody has any communication with him since he was illegally abducted from Maryland. These soldiers were ordered to prevent us from going any farther from this spot.
All right, so that was Maryland's Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen outside a notorious El Salvadorian prison as he fights for the release of deported migrant Cuomo Abrego Garcia. Now, as you know, the courts have ruled Trump must facilitate the return of Garcia to the United States. Details about Garcia's past, they've been emerging. Seems like we learn more each day, including his wife's 2021 restraining order against him, where she accused him of domestic violence. But today, Garcia's wife released a new statement with an explanation for that restraining order. I want to read you part of the statement. It says, after surviving domestic violence in a previous relationship, I acted out of caution following a disagreement with Cuomo by seeking a civil protective order in case things escalated. Things did not escalate, and I decided not to follow through. No one is perfect, and no marriage is perfect, but that is not a justification for ICE's action of abducting him and deporting him. So does any of this change the right's position on Garcia? Let's ask Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman Burchett joins me live now. Congressman, I'm assuming it's really no surprise to you that the senator returned today without Garcia.
Well, he has no jurisdiction, neither does a federal judge in a foreign country. That's the problem they've got, whether Trump says bring him home or not. It doesn't have anything to do with it. And I find it very odd that the Democrats have spent more time and coverage of this guy than they have of all the other people that have been murdered by illegal aliens. The guy was here illegally, and yet people are saying return him home. Well, guess what? He is home. And I find that domestic abuse is a horrible thing. And that the quotes there were very well crafted. I'll just leave it at that.
Well,
I would like to go ahead.
Yeah, the senator traveled all the way to El Salvador. Apparently wasn't even able to talk to Garcia on the phone and wasn't even able to get within miles of the prison, the military stopped him. You think he would have sort of known that before he made the trip all the way down there?
Well, he did. He was just trying to showboating. I mean, come on. That's what we do. We're in politics. We get the media. He's getting all the national press. Nobody even knew who he was, and now they know who he is. And so, but the Democrats we've got what we know 20 million have come over in the last 4 years. We've got gang members, we've got rapists, child abductors, trafficking, all that, and to beat it all, I wish y'all would do a little research. There's a story came out in a publication in Tennessee called the Tennessee Star about this man, and they're apparently saying that he drove through Tennessee, was picked up, had a van full of people, and didn't have a driver's license, and they're trying to FOIA the rest of that. But that's something that we might ought to look into. That there could be something there.
Yeah, I read that from your home state today, from the Tennessee Star, that he was driving with a car full of migrants suspected of human trafficking. The thing I thought about, Congressman, though, that was, I think, 2022, according to that article. But I guess they just let him go at that point? Like, what does that say about the system?
Well, I know a lot of Tennessee state troopers. I was a state legislator for 16 years, and they're cut above. They're excellent men and women. They're very loyal and patriotic, and I bet you they were. Apparently, they're claiming that the FBI told them to cut this guy loose, and I bet you that just kills morale when that kind of garbage goes on. I even passed a law when I was in the legislature dealing with human trafficking, because I followed a van into Nashville one time that was and I full of old cars, and I wouldn't have messed with this whole van. It was rough, and it was just stacked full of people. And there's actually fines that can be put on folks, and it just shows the complete disregard, I felt like, for the law and state sovereignty of our federal government under the Biden administration. So I would hope people would look into that a little more. I find it very odd, though, that this guy he's here illegally, and he was an informant said he was a member of a gang. He was wearing sports team memorabilia, apparently, and then that sort of identifies you as a member of MS-13. And there's a lot of questions that are going on, but it's kind of surprising to me the Democrats are putting this much stock into this guy.
Yeah, I'm interested, like you are, though, a little more detail from that report from 2022, what came out in the Tennessee Star, because it is interesting that that now we're learning about it, but he was just let go. Congressman Burchett, appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate y'all.
Of course. All right. And now I want to look at the legal news. And this was a big part of this that broke today regarding the case. A federal appeals court denied Trump's latest bid to prevent government officials from being deposed in the Garcia case. And in a harshly worded ruling against Trump, a Reagan-appointed judge wrote, "The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order." So how big of a blow is this to the Trump administration? Let's bring an author of The Preventative State, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, good to hear from you. We've got the perfect guy to help us break this down. What does this latest ruling mean? Because I thought the Supreme Court already ruled that they have to bring Garcia back. How does this now play into it?
Well, this wasn't a judicial ruling or an opinion. It was a July 4th speech. It was high on rhetoric and low on legal analysis. In fact, the author was so mad at Trump because he wanted to impeach judges. That isn't even in the record before the case. So what happened is this judge, or these three judges, were so mad at Trump that they wrote an opinion that bears almost no relationship to the facts or the law. As I said, it was a July 4th oration. There were a few interesting sentences in it, and I know these judges. I've argued in front of them, and they're good judges, but they are so angry that they allowed themselves to write an extraordinarily unjudicious opinion, an opinion that just serves to create conflict between the executive branch and the judicial branch. So on balance, I would give this opinion a D+ with great inflation. It looks good, it sounds good, but when you read it and you take it apart, you see it's more rhetoric and more anger and less legal analysis.
So how does this play out, Professor Dershowitz? I mean, you've got the Supreme Court ruling. Trump has said that he's not going to bring Garcia back. At some point, is he going to have to? I mean, like, what happens next?
There are 3 or 4 options. Number one, he doesn't have to bring him back. All he has to do is send him to a different country. The only order is that he can't be sent to El Salvador, because that is where his life would be at risk. Send him to a different country, Brazil, and Brazil took him. That would really be the end of the matter. Or, and I've come up with a very creative idea, they could send an immigration judge down to El Salvador, have a room and a hearing, have his lawyer there, and argue whether or not he deserves asylum. Because remember, he's deportable. He's subject to deportation. The question is whether he can be deported to El Salvador. So there are many options that the Trump administration can pursue. The question is, do they want to, or do they want a confrontation? The one area where I think the Fourth Circuit probably got it right, the Supreme Court used the word facilitate, which sounds like it's more of an active noun than a passive noun. That is, they should do something. But there are many options, and I think that let's go to the bottom line. The bottom line is this guy will never, ever be a citizen or resident or green card holder or visa holder in the United States. He will be deported. So the only question is the mechanism by which he's deported. And the administration acknowledges they made a mistake, but they didn't make it clear what the mistake was. The only mistake is they sent him to the wrong place. It's not the deportation itself was not a mistake. And so I think that this conflict could be resolved if the Justice Department decides it wants to resolve it. It may decide it wants to have conflict and let the Supreme Court resolve it. That's okay as long as the administration doesn't refuse to obey a Supreme Court decision. Right now, the decision is ambiguous enough so that the Fourth Circuit was overwrought in its criticism of the administration.
Yeah, it's an interesting creative solution you had, though. I hadn't thought of it, to send an immigration judge to El Salvador. He never even asked to leave there, and then they can just be done with the whole matter. I guess we'll see how it turns out. Alan Dershowitz, appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, this next break, it's 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Up next, another big day in court for the Menendez brothers in their fight to be resentenced for the murder of their parents. And it was not without fireworks and a lot of drama today. What happened? And are the brothers any closer to freedom? We've got their lawyer, the famous defense attorney, Mark Garagos. He's going to join me next. Menendez brothers serving life without parole for the 1989 murder of their parents. The brothers have always claimed that they killed them out of self-defense because of years of abuse at the hands of their father. The LA district attorney, up until a few months ago, George Cascone, supported resentencing the brothers, but after November's election, there was a new DA that took over, Nathan Hochman. Hochman came out against any resentencing effort, saying the Menendez brothers have never accounted for what he calls lies, and as recent as today, called for this afternoon's hearing to be halted. Now, he lost that bid and went face-to-face with the Menendez's defense attorney in court, and joining me right now is that attorney, fresh out of court, busy day. Mark Garagos joins us live now. Mark, seemed like a lot of fireworks. Cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom. What happened today?
Well, as usual, Nathan Hochman, the DA, raced over to do his photo opportunity, violated what I thought was a privilege by doing the press conference in the first place, but that is apparently his modus operandi now. We got into the courtroom, and the issue was whether or not they were going to, or we were actually going to ever see the reports that had been prepared. We still haven't. When I say we, neither my clients nor myself, number one. Number two, we've gotten to a point now where the victims, who also happen to be my client's family, they're both their family and they're the victims. They have been savaged and traumatized repeatedly by this new DA. And starting with last Friday, when grisly crime scene photos are put up there, and they were given no warning whatsoever. Today, they filed, or last night, the DA filed a motion to continue the case without notifying any of the victims, once again, violating Marcy's law, which is a constitutional provision for victims. And so we decided today, after the latest shenanigans, that they want a continuance. That's fine. We're going to continue it just long enough to move to recuse, basically to ask the judge to throw the DA off the case and find somebody who is at least partially in compliance with the Constitution.
How would that even work? I mean, is that really a possibility? Would they bring in a DA from like another jurisdiction?
No, actually, I've done this before successfully in LA County. When you find that the DA should be recused, basically that he's got a bias, what happens is you have to give under the law 10 court days notice to the Attorney General. The Attorney General will come in. He will either say yay or nay, and then the judge has the decision. I think in this case, if the Attorney General takes a fair look at this, he's going to say, yeah, it looks pretty bad. And I will tell you, I've had cases where the DA's office, LA County DA's office, has been recused based on a motion that were nowhere near as strong as this one. This case, what has happened to these victims who also are their relatives. And the judge said it in court today. It's very unusual to have a case. I can only think of a handful of times in doing this over 40 years where your client, meaning my client, the defendants, the victims in the case are also their relatives. It only happens very infrequently. But when it does, that doesn't mean that the victims get tossed aside. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you're a victim with an asterisk, but that's the way they're being treated by this DA, and it's shameful.
And it seems unusual, too, regardless of how you feel about the Menendez brothers, that this pre-parole risk assessment, that the DA was able to read it, apparently, but that you never got a copy of it, and the judge didn't even get a copy of it, which is one of the reasons this is all now being delayed. So we'll see what happens. It sounds like the next court hearing is in May. Mark, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Brian. And say hi to Dusty.
Yeah, she's right there. She's just about 12 feet that way. So she was texting you hardcore today to get you on. You came right out of court, and here you are. So we appreciate it. All right, coming up next, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made it clear that he was going to be making cuts to his department, but newly leaked documents now show the massive scope of those cuts to the tune of $40 billion. So the big question, is this government efficiency or are life-saving programs being put on the chopping block? We've got two scientists from two different administrations. They're going to tell us both sides of this. That's next.
Comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have dozens of IT departments, dozens of HR departments. None of them talk to each other. We're not cutting scientists. We're not cutting frontline workers. We're cutting administrators, and we're consolidating the agency to make it more efficient.
That was HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on with Chris a few weeks ago, telling us to expect big cuts to his department, but at the time offering no specific details on where those cuts might come from. Well, now we know more. The Washington Post reports it obtained a 64-page document from the White House's Office of Management and Budget outlining it all, including cuts to health agencies, key in disease prevention, medical research, and emergency response. And according to the Post and other outlets, Kennedy and the White House are planning on cutting HHS discretionary funding by almost a third, to the tune of $40 billion. Now there's concern about how these cuts could impact things like HIV and smoking prevention, health services for minorities and the poor, and even research for diseases like Alzheimer's. Let's discuss now with Dr. Robert Redfield. He was the CDC director during the first Trump administration. And we've also got Dr. Ashish Jha, who served as COVID response coordinator under Joe Biden. Appreciate you both being with us. Dr. Jha, I want to start with you. You heard RFK talking with Chris there, talking about cuts to comms and IT and HR. But now we read through this list, autism, teen pregnancy prevention, substance abuse initiatives, HIV surveillance. When the list comes out, it does seem kind of alarming, Dr. Jha.
Yeah, so first of all, Brian, thanks for having me here. Look, he sounded really reasonable a couple of weeks ago. We could all agree, and Dr. Redfield, I'm sure, would agree with me that HHS could be a lot more efficient. The problem is that these cuts are thoughtless in my mind, and they're going to end up actually costing the taxpayer a lot more money. When you get rid of smoking prevention programs for our youth, guess what? You're going to get more smoking and you're going to have to pay for a lot more healthcare services. When you get rid of HIV prevention and sexually transmitted disease prevention, same thing. When you get rid of Head Start for kids in rural areas, you're going to end up having to pay a lot more in other ways. So this is going to harm the health, and it's also going to end up ultimately costing Americans a lot more money in the long run.
Yeah, what do you make of it, Dr. Redfield, and Dr. Jha's point that while we may save the money now, is it going to cost us later with Medicaid and more people are sick if we kill all these programs that have to do with prevention?
Two things, Brian. First, I think it's important to realize that if we go back to the pre-COVID era, I mean, in the Biden administration, we increased HHS's budget by 37%. So if you say we're reducing it by 30%, we're still coming back to the pre-COVID era budget. Personnel was 17% increase in the Biden years. So I think you have to put it in the context. Secondly, I think part of it is how this department gets reorganized. Kennedy is going to start the Administration for Healthy America, which is a new division which is going to be run out of HHS. A number of these programs, one of which is very close to my heart, HIV prevention, are going to be moved into that new division. So I think we should wait and see how this evolves. I do agree with your lead-in. A lot of the stuff that you're going to see is the consolidation of comms, IT, HR. So I have a lot of confidence in Kennedy. I don't think this is going to be done in a way that's going to harm health. I think he's committed to making America healthy again, and I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt and realize, again, my big point, that we had a 37% increase in HHS's budget in the Biden years. So really, we're just going back to what I call the pre-COVID year budget, and let's just see how that reorganization flushes out.
What do you make of what he's saying, Dr. Jha? I mean, if they increase so much during COVID and there is a lot of repetition, should we give RFK a chance here? I mean, maybe these cuts are necessary.
Yeah, so first of all, I agree that we should give the secretary a chance. But here's the big picture point. That 37% increase that Dr. Redfield's talking about, that was a lot of additional spending for COVID in the middle of a big pandemic. That money has already gone away. So that's just, in my mind, that's a red herring. What we're talking about is cuts like Head Start. I mean, I'd love to hear how Dr. Redfield thinks that Head Start is wasteful spending. It's HIV prevention. Yes, he has been a champion of it. We're actually cutting frontline workers and scientists. Mr. Kennedy said he wasn't going to do that. That's what this budget does. So this is not about COVID spending going away. That's a red herring. That spending has already gone away. We're now talking about critical programs for the American people. No question we need more efficiency, but I'd like to see a much more thoughtful plan than what Mr. Kennedy has laid out.
What do you think, Dr. Redfield, about what Dr. Jha said specifically with the Head Start and HIV prevention, things that, on the surface sound very important?
Well, Dr. Jha knows I was a big advocate, and I was very proud of the fact that the president launched the initiative to end the AIDS epidemic by 2030. It was an initiative that I really pushed, I believe, very strongly in. And I personally don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be moving to the new Department of Administration for Healthy America, and it's going to get consolidated among HRSA rather than have it basically at CDC and HRSA. But we'll see. I'm going to be a champion for that because I do think it's to our nation's advantage to bring an end to the HIV epidemic once and for all. I'm a big advocate of Head Start. I mean, I'm a grandfather now of 14 young children.
Wow, 14! My gosh, you're a busy man.
Yeah. Well, I'm an old-fashioned Catholic. What can I say? but I just really would like to. I can tell you one thing. I know Secretary Kennedy pretty well. I know he has an enormous passion for making America healthy again. I'd love to have Dr. Jha and people that worked with him, along with people like myself, try to figure out how we can consolidate and work together to make America healthy again. Dr. Jha did a great job when he was working, leading the the COVID pandemic in the White House. I just think this is an area we can come together. We want to make America healthy again. We may disagree on exactly how to do it, but let's give people the benefit of the doubt that their intentions are to make our nation healthy again.
And last word to you, Dr. Jha. We only have about 30 seconds left, but who does this, if all these cuts go through, who does it impact the most, would you say?
Yeah, and I agree with Dr. Redfield that there may be good intentions here. I don't ever question people's intentions. I look at their actions. And what I am seeing is not consolidation. I'm seeing cuts and layoffs to critical programs. And the one organizing theme is that the people who are going to be harmed by this are people who are not politically powerful, people living in rural areas, people who are minorities, people who are poor. That's where the cuts are going to go. I don't see how that makes America better off.
Thank you, Dr. Jha. Thank you, Dr. Redfield. Appreciate you both coming on tonight, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having us. God bless.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
Okay, so Chris is off doing fireman training. We're very proud of him and very impressed. But we're very happy you are here because you have a big birthday in a couple days, and I could not resist the opportunity. I am so glad, and I'm so glad that I got to be with you.
Ridiculous.
It's a big one. We have a little cue. Kyle, director Kyle, where is it?
My God.
Where's our balloon drop? There we go.
Look at the anime. You know, I wondered why you left time at the end of the show, Dusty.
I know,
was like, what?
Now I can't see
what
you
is
anymore.
Going on? And I'm going to be, oh my God, look at the balloons. I know, I am going to be 40.
I didn't know if I was allowed to say that you were going to be 40,
well,
but
everybody knows now.
Now they know.
Yeah, thank you. Look at this cake. Oh my, you're so sweet, Dusty. Thank you so much.
I am very happy. Chris is going to be back tomorrow.
Yes,
God,
it was an honor
willing.
to fill in while he is doing firefighting efforts right now, like running into burning buildings. So
I know. That's why